Hello everyone and welcome back to this video series. So we're going to do a very simple project that is trying to connect a Raspberry Pi to some sensors, and the first sensor we're going to work with is a DHT sensor. So what I have here is a DHT 22 sensor. Basically it will give you readings for the temperature and humidity for the environment, and this is what I want us to configure and connect to a Raspberry Pi over here. So I do have a Raspberry Pi 4. This is the 4GB model, and what you can see here, this is the GPIO ports on the lower side. Then you have the power input and the two HDMI ports, and also it has four USB ports, as you can see the side, as well as an Ethernet port. So what I do also have is the feature Raspberry Pi touchscreen monitor, and so it's already connected to the screen to the Raspberry Pi 4 via this ribbon cable. So the first part of this video series, we're going to first deal with the hardware, and that will encompass connecting these sensors to the Raspberry Pi. And I'm going to do it in a different way because I want to build a small carrier board over here that will plug onto this GPIO ports, and then we shall be able to build all our circuitry on that PCB circuit. That way we don't have to come and plug here our jumper wires. So let me just show you the pinout for a Raspberry Pi. So what you're seeing now is the Raspberry Pi pinout, and what you can see on the top side here is the 3.3 voltage and 5 volts. So these are the two pins, and if I switch back to the Raspberry Pi which I have, it is these two pins here on the extreme side here. So the inner one is the 3.3 volts, and this is the 5 volts output pin. So this is the 5 volts, the 3.3, and on the lower side here we have the ground on the inner side, and the outer pin here is the GPIO 21. So today we're going to work mostly with the 3.3 volts, the ground pin, and the GPIO 14, because our sensor actually does require some bit of that's three pins. That we have the power, which are going to work with the 3.3 volts, the red one, and then you have the black one, which is going to be our ground pin, and the yellow one is going to be our data pin. So we're going to connect this to pin 14 of our Raspberry Pi here. It's almost somewhere here. So first thing first, I want to build a small carrier board that I'm going to plug in here, and so I have cut some bit of female pins. Let me just plug them in. So these are the pins I have, basically the female pins, and I want to be plugging in directly on the Raspberry Pi pins there. And then for the other side as well, I'll do the same. So at least I don't have to come and connect all the pins to the Raspberry Pi directly. So let me have them this way. This will plug in here, and then let me just press them firmly in. Then this one also will plug in here. So you basically have the same male pins on the top side. But now what I want to do different, I want to have this smaller board here. I'm going to plug in onto those pins that way, and because I have this one now, if you can see it from the side view, you'll see that you have these female pins which will plug onto the Raspberry Pi male pins, and then I want to solder all these pins onto this board. That way all the connections I'll do them on this board itself, not on the Raspberry Pi directly, and I can go to plug this out directly. So why don't we do some soldering a bit and get these boards to be firmly on that. Yeah. So this is the final output. As you can see, we've got all these pins soldered onto this board, and now you can go to unplug this board from the lower side slowly. This is what we now have, two-sided for all the 40 pins we have, and it's well soldered on the top side. So now all the circuits will be building. Now we should be able to plug all those wires here and have them soldered as well. So let's do that. So I'll start first with the power pins for the sensor. So this is the sensor we have, and so the red one is the power pin, this is the ground pin, and then this is the signal pin. And so we're going to connect this to 3.3 volts ground pin, and then this is the digital pin number 14. So let's do that. So as you can see, this is the first pin. This is the 3.3 volt voltage pin, as shown on the pinout I showed earlier. So the first pin here is the 3.3 volts, and the third pin on the outside part is the ground pin. So that's what exactly we have done. We have connected this pin here. This is the first pin, is the 3.3 volts, and this is the third pin, is the ground pin. So as you can see, so what is now remaining is the signal pin. So we're going to connect our signal pin to digital pin number 4, as you can see here. So it's the fourth pin from the inner side. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fourth pin, and that's exactly what we're going to also do on our circuit here. So this is the fourth pin. Let's just solder that in. And so this is the hardware part. We have the ground, the power line, and the ground line, all of them connected. So basically we need just to plug this in into a board this way. And now our next step is now to power this board, and then power the screen as well, so you can be able to see the output from these two. So let me do that right away. So the screen is being powered by a micro USB, and then the Raspberry Pi requires a Type-C cable. That's what I've given it. So if all went well, then you should be able to see this Raspberry Pi booting up. This is the Raspberry Pi desktop, basically showing you how it normally happens. It has two IDEs, these two, internet accessibility, and many other different things. And we are currently connected to Wi-Fi, so we can be able to remote connect to this device. So we are currently using the VNC server, and then accessing it from my laptop as well. So in our next video, we're going to start with installing all the libraries that we require to access the sensor, and also updating our packages, as well as installing the Python libraries. Then once we're done with installing those libraries, we shall start now writing some code that will be able to enable us to query those information from the sensors, as well as doing other kinds of processing. Then in our last video, we shall look at making a graphical user interface that will be able to display this kind of data. So stay tuned, see you then.